Hey guys, it's Greg. Welcome back to another episode of Metal Shreducation, the series where I teach you a riff, but not only the riff, how to get the tone from the album. You're welcome. This time, we're looking at Tornado of Souls by Megadeth. Now I know what you're thinking. But Greg, Tornado of Souls is one of the hardest riffs ever written, and the tone of that album is so hard to get. There's no way you can do both. Well, shut up and don't be silly. I can, and that's why I've summoned you for this video. You're welcome. So for researching for this one, this album was recorded with Dave Mustaine's King V with a JB in the bridge. And they used a Bogner Fish preamp, which is extremely rare now and extremely pricey. They're going used for like $3,500. And they used some kind of VHT preamp. No one even knows what it was. Long story short, I don't have any of the gear needed for this tone. Can I still do it? Yes, and you can too. And I will show you how. So for my guitar, I don't have a Flying V. Oh my god, you know, Flying V? Retarded. I know, but maybe someday I'll have one again. I had a bunch. Stupidly, I got rid of them. But that doesn't matter. What am I going to do to replace the Flying V? I need a thick body tone. I need, I can't use one of my standard kind of smaller, kind of shreddier double cuts that I would normally play. So what I'm going to use in this to get it is my FGN. It's about twice as thick as one of my standard double cuts. And I don't have a JB at the moment, but this has a Dragonfire Screamer, which is basically a Duncan JB clone, so I'll be using that to give me the guitar tone for this. For the amp tone, I'll be using, again, the trusty Do-It-All amp Marshall DSL-20. Two other pedals I'm using for this. I'm using my MXR Tan-Band EQ pedal, and I'm also using my Boss SD1 pedal. So for the amp settings for the DSL-20, I'll have that on the screen now. So for the EQ pedal settings, I'll have that on the screen now. And lastly, the Boss SD1 settings, I'll have that on the screen now as well. So the key to this tone is really in the super aggressive amount of mids, high mids, and highs. So I'm not using any lows on the EQ pedal at all. I'm really just adding a ton of mids, high mids, and highs to this. As well as you can see on the amp, I still have the mids cranked pretty high as well. And I'm using the SD1 to give me additional mids and highs as well. So that's really the key to this. If you don't, if you don't have the gear I have, use whatever Marshall amp you have is closest to this, or Marshall in a box type pedal. Use these settings as your starting point and then tweak them from there. You're going to have a different cab for me. You're going to have, different guitar, different pickups, blah, 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 blah. But just use these tone settings as your starting point and then tweak until you find the tone that's close for you. Okay, so for the lesson part of this is a very tricky, fast riff, but it's not impossible, okay? So don't freak out. Shut up, all right? I'm going to show you. It's going to be great. Okay, so the song is in the key of B minor, but it's kind of that, like what I call the 80 scale. By the way, if you want a more in-depth lesson on the 80 scale, join my Patreon. There's going to be a lesson up very soon for that. What is the 80 scale you talk about, Greg? Well, I'm going to explain it, sort of. He's basically using a combination of B natural minor, which is with the B blues scale, which is not the pentatonic scale, the actual blues scale, which is the pentatonic adding the blue note, which is the flatted fifth, which sounds like this. Okay, so that note is a pivotal part of why this riff sounds so different. It's not the normal kind of scale your ear is used to. Okay, so going through this, we're starting in the key of B, which is the 7th fret, top string. Okay, we're going to hit 7, 7, 9, 10. Okay, again, 7, 7, 9, 10. We're going to go down a string, and we're going to do 7, hammer on 8, pull off 7, which is, again, your 4th, flatted 5th, back to the 4th. And then back up to your minor 3rd, which is 10 on the top string with your pinky. Okay, so again. Okay, so for the next part, we're still using that same blue note again. We're doing 7, hammer 8, hammer 9 now on string 2, which is the A string. Okay, so we have... Okay, we're going to go down a string to 7 on D, and then back up to 9 on A. Okay, so it's... Okay, now the last part of this first part of the riff is 9, pull off 7 on the D string, and then resolve to 7 on G. Okay, so if we do that again. Okay, one more time. Okay, that is the first part. This is a 4-part riff. Parts 1 and 3, 1 and 3, are the exact same ending. Parts 2 and 4 have a different ending. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the entire thing again. The only thing that's different between part 2 and part 1 are the last 3 notes. So we repeat all the same parts. But here, instead of doing... We're doing 9, pull off 7, and resolving on 9 on the A string. Okay, so instead of this, it's... Okay, so part 1, you're going to resolve to the 7 on G. Part 2, you're going to resolve to the 9 on string A. Okay, part 3, again, we're back to the first part again. Okay, so putting those parts together, part 1. Okay, now we're into the ending of the riff. Now we're sliding into chords. We're doing a D5 power chord, 5 on string 2, 7 on string 3. Then sliding to a C5, which is 2 frets to the left of that, 3 and 5. Okay, then he has this little fill at the end where we're climbing through the minor scale on the A string, and it's 7, hammer on 8, pull off 7. 5, hammer on 7, pull off 5. 4, hammer on 5, pull off 4. Then he's kind of adding this blue note again here. This is 3, doesn't really belong. And then resolving to a B power chord. So that sounds like... Okay, so again, to review the entire thing, starting with part 1. Okay, that's the one where we resolve to 7 on G. Part 2 resolves to 9 on the A string. Okay, and then part 3 is back to part 1. Okay, and then we have part 4. So, learn this at about half speed and slowly work on it and speed it up. It's a lot trickier when you're doing it at full speed, and the hammer-ons and pull-offs can get a little bit confusing. So definitely, use a metronome, go, half speed or even less to begin with, and every day just slowly increase the speed until you get to the actual speed of the song. All right, so that'll do it for this video, guys. What do you think? Did I sort of nail the tone? Super duper nail the tone? Or super duper ultra couldn't be better? Perfectly nail the tone? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more in-depth lessons with me and more tone lessons specifically as well, sign up for my Patreon. I'll have the link to that in the description below. As always, like, comment, share to the entire world. Why wouldn't you? Because this is the greatest video you've ever seen. Hit subscribe, of course, because this is the greatest channel you've ever seen. Duh. Hit the bell so you get notified when you get said videos from this greatest channel ever. And I'll summon you for the next video.
Parts 1 and 3.
1 and 3.